Well, thank you, everyone, today, and thank you to my friend Premier Ford for coming to sign and working on advancing free trade among the provinces within our nation of Canada. And welcome to Saskatchewan, my friend, yet again. Been here many times, but I welcome you once again. We've long been an advocate, I would say, and Premier Ford has long been an advocate for making trade across Canada as streamlined as possible. It shouldn't be easier to trade with other countries than it is to trade between the Canadian provinces of our nation. And it's more important now, I would say, than ever for us to prioritize removing any and all barriers that we have that limit flow of trade and limit flow of professionals from moving across Canada. It's a great way, as I would say, it's very greatly appreciated to have another like-minded province join us on that front and continue to put words into action. And Premier, you've been doing that for a number of weeks now, bringing provinces together on a one-by-one basis. So now is a time for us to implement common sense solutions that will benefit the people in both of our provinces and indirectly benefit people across the nation. The MOU, or Memorandum of Understanding, that Premier Ford and I will be signing in just a moment, is yet one more way that we are able to stand strong for our provinces and collectively as provinces stand strong for our country and all of the people that call Canada home. There are many aspects to the MOU that we are signing today, but the most notable piece includes the cornerstone of this agreement and many others is mutual recognition or reciprocity. Mutual recognition of our goods, of our workers, and investment, while recognizing the importance of strengthening public safety and respecting the integrity and the role of Crown corporations or Crown utilities that we have in Saskatchewan. For example, a good that is acceptable for sale in Saskatchewan should be just as acceptable for sale in Ontario. And a service that is offered in our province should also be offered equally in their province, and vice versa. And a good that is acceptable for sale or a service in Ontario should also be available in Saskatchewan. A new focus on interprovincial labor mobility will help people move between work in our respective provinces and I think indirectly help people move across Canada, which is the goal. As part of this memorandum, we'll also begin to work on a bilateral framework for direct-to-consumer alcohol trade system. Saskatchewan and Ontario are leading in efforts to advance a framework for direct-to-consumer alcohol sales for willing jurisdictions across Canada. This is the progress on internal trade that our country needs in order to remain competitive and in order for us to remain resilient in an ever-changing global trade environment. And the last number of months has certainly highlighted that. So I'm proud to be here today with my friend, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, to sign this MOU and to improve Saskatchewan's partnership yet again. Another step in signing this partnership agreement with Ontario. A step that will again continue our effort in removing any and all trade barriers, not only with Ontario, but removing any and all trade barriers across the nation. These actions will not only strengthen our respective economies in Saskatchewan and Ontario, but they will benefit workers and businesses in each of our jurisdictions and indirectly are going to greatly enhance the Canadian economy, understanding that our Canadian economy is a sum of the regional strengths and the regional economies that we have. So I'm excited by the opportunities ahead, and I'm confident that moving forward we will find even more common ground in advancing and improving our interprovincial trade relationship between Saskatchewan and Ontario, and continue, maybe even over the course of the next day or so, to advance our interprovincial trade relationship across the nation. And so, Premier Ford, thank you for being a leader in this space over the last number of not just months, but the last number of years. And you and I have been at this for a few years now.
Yeah, have we ever? Well, first of all, I just want to thank Premier Moe. I always say, Premier Moe is an absolute champion. First person I met when I became Premier, close to 7 years ago. We've hit it off. He's one of my closest allies and very like-minded when it comes to a lot of issues that we're facing across the country. I also want to thank you for hosting all the premiers and the Prime Minister in beautiful Saskatchewan here, and we look forward to working. I also want to start by extending my prayers to everyone in Alberta, in Manitoba, in Saskatchewan, and in Ontario. We're there for you. I mentioned this to Premier Moe when we talk frequently, and I mentioned it to Premier Canoe. and we're there to support. I truly feel when it comes to this, we do need that national strategy to make sure that when issues like this happen, we have the resources. We have the water bombers. We have a few on order right now. We have 11 in total in Ontario, but we need a total fleet right across our great country to support the provinces that get affected every single year when it comes to this. I made it clear to my friend Premier Moe and Premier Canoe and any other premier that's facing these wildfires, we're there to support you any way we can. Over the next few days, we expect to welcome hundreds or even thousands of Manitobans. Right here in Ontario, we're bringing, I think, the first plane arrived today. We're going to have over 450 First Nations folks to come to Ontario. They're going to be housed down in Niagara Falls, so we welcome them, and we welcome as many as we can take. That's what we do. We're all Canadians. We support each other, no matter if it's any natural disaster, any wildfire, and especially when it comes to trade. Friends, our government is on a mission to protect Ontario and to protect Canada. We've moved at lightning speed to introduce legislation designed to open up trade from coast to coast to coast. In 2023, total trade between Ontario and the rest of Canada is $330 billion. That's nearly 30% of Ontario's GDP. At a time when President Trump is taking direct aim at our economy, and make no mistake about it, he wants to annihilate our economy, no matter if it's manufacturing in Ontario or any other jurisdiction that he can get his hands on, bring it down to the U.S. And we're going to fight like we've never fought before, not just to protect Ontario, but to protect the rest of our country. And I can tell you, expanding trade within Canada won't just raise our standard of living, it will make life easier for businesses, give investors confidence in our economy, and increase free movement of our best and most in-demand workers. And we always say, if there's a dock in Saskatchewan, it'd be just as good of a dock in Ontario, or a dock in Ontario could be just as good in Saskatchewan, and that goes for all different areas, no matter if it's electricians or engineers. If they can build anywhere in Canada, they should be able to come and build right across our great nation. We're doing this by reducing barriers to internal trade. We also create new jobs and boost Canada's competitiveness and productivity. It's never been more important to do this. Together, we need to build a more competitive, more resilient, more self-reliant Canadian economy. And then we have to diversify across the world, not relying on the United States. And I always say, it's not the American people. Americans love Canadians. It's one person that wakes up every morning and decides what the world is going to do for him. Well, I'm sorry, when you take on the world, it comes back at you, I can assure you that. But we're going to make sure we have a strong economy. We're going to buy Canadian. We're going to manufacture here. And when President Trump goes off, I don't need this, I don't need that, I'll translate that into Canadian. What he's really saying is, I appreciate the 1.3 billion barrels of oil, appreciate the critical minerals that are coming out of our mines, uranium and potash that the Americans rely on from my friend Scott Moe, the aluminum that they rely on from Quebec. That's what he's really saying, because they do need us, and we do need them as well. Together, we're going to make sure we stand united. As it stands, overregulation of trade within our borders costs national economy over $200 billion each and every single year. It also increases the cost of goods by over 15%, and it will increase our GDP by another 7 to 8%. We simply can't afford to leave that kind of money sitting on the table. That's why Ontario is taking action, standing up for free trade within Canada, in one of the best ways to grow our economy and create better jobs and bigger paychecks for workers across our great country. And I'm so proud that Ontario is the first province in Canada to remove all exceptions under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement without any conditions attached. We're working with premiers, just like Premier Moe and all other premiers, no matter what political stripe they come from. And I always say, when it comes to political stripes, I don't give two hoots what color of party you're coming from. There's one party, and that's the Canadian Party right now, that we're going to focus on making sure that we defend the hostile economic attacks from President Trump. Earlier today, I signed an agreement with Premier Rob Lance from Prince Edward Island, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my friend again, Premier Moe, to now sign an agreement with Saskatchewan, and I look forward to signing agreements with other premiers, hopefully by the end of the day or the end of our meeting on Monday, to continue cutting red tape, to continue making Canada's economy the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business, and create a quality of life second to none. Together as Team Canada, we can unlock free trade within Canada and build a stronger, more resilient economy that can stand tall on its own and weather anything that comes our way, not just this, but anything that comes our way. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank my good friend, Premier Moe, for hosting us today and tomorrow. I look forward to having everyone by Ontario. I think it's July 20th, around there. And I just want to say thank you again, Premier Moe, and may God bless the people of Ontario. May God bless the people of Canada. Thank you so much.
Just hold on, we're going to sign this first here.
Yeah, that's all right.
Sign the MOU first.
Yeah,
That's all right.
pretty ambitious.
Don't worry. I'm used to that in Toronto.
You're not in Toronto anymore.
Yeah.
July 20th, we're out there for Council of Federation.
Okay, good. We're on. You staying a couple extra days to go fishing?
I'm not a
Okay.
very good fisherman.
No?
That'd be looking straight at me.
Yeah.
Straight wall. Perfect, thank you.
I'm good at trying,
Yeah.
not good at catching.
He's a champ. That's all I know. He's the best.
Now we'll go over here for questions.
I'd just like to get your reaction on the doubling of tariff on the aluminum and steel that the President Trump announced, and the impact maybe on your province, maybe too. And what does it tell you about a possible deal with Donald Trump?
Well, it's concerning. Every time he wakes up, the story changes, the deal changes. You know, when I went down to Washington, it was very clear from Secretary Lutnick, no surprises. Well, every morning we wake up and we have a surprise, but it just doesn't surprise us. He surprises the people, Americans. You know, all it's doing is hurting Americans. It's hurting American manufacturers. Cost of anything that's produced by steel has gone up 16% down there, and it's going to continue to hurt the economy in the U.S. Aluminum that comes from Quebec, I think it's about 65% of all the aluminum they use down there is going to hurt the Americans. But what we are going to do, I'll speak for Ontario, and I'm sure all the premiers feel the same, we're going to onshore everything we possibly can. Let me give you an example of steel. The steel beams, we have more cranes. Even though it's a little slow right now in building, we still have more cranes than 10 of the largest cities combined in the U.S. And guess what? Every one of them use steel beams. That's done. That's over. We'll bring manufacture here because we have the capacity, and they're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars of business. Another good example, if you look at the tins, be it Coca-Cola or Pepsi or Molson's or Labatt's and everything else, a private label one, small breweries. We ship the aluminum, it goes down to the U.S., gets dinged by 25%, they convert it and print it, and they ship it back up. Well, you know, as I've told senators down there, this is the most foolish thing that President Trump could ever do, because guess what? We're bringing a can manufacturer to Ontario, and they're going to lose $1 billion worth of business. And when they start laying people off, well, then they're going to wake up. And by that time, it's too late. They're losing the can market because we will give incentives to companies to bring, their production into Ontario and produce cans. And again, that's over $1 billion. And then tin that the Fasco makes. The vast majority of that tin goes to California to form and print and get shipped back to Ontario. A good example are Primo, the pasta cans, and that's just one out of many. Well, guess what? We're going to start making our tins right in Ontario. So, they can't see the forest, or President Trump cannot see the forest beyond the trees. He thinks he's going to punish us. Well, guess what? He's punishing his own people. And we're going to get that message. After he's done this, I'm back on the horse, and I'm going to start getting our message out to every single American. I'll be doing the news cycle constantly, making sure the Americans are informed what their president is doing to hurt them, hurt their families, hurt companies. But we're going to protect families and companies right here in Ontario.
Premier Ford, how long will it take for you to get all these deals in place right across the country? Go ahead.
Well, it won't happen overnight, but we're moving rapidly. I've directed my Minister of Economic Development, Vic Fideli. He's already working on a can manufacturer. He's working with a tin manufacturer. We're going to be working with one of the large steel companies to start producing steel beams. Anything that we don't manufacture here and it justifies, opening a plant, we'll make a plant. We'll produce our own goods right here and distribute it across our country and around the world.
I meant the interprovincial, knocking down the interprovincial trade barriers. The two deals you've got, Prince Edward Island, now Saskatchewan. All the other
So,
members have to
Nova
make the same
Scotia,
agreement.
Manitoba.
Yeah, so,
Deals with 12 other jurisdictions.
yeah,
The Prime Minister wants to have this done ideally by Canada Day. Is that realistic?
I think so, because we already have Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, PEI. Hopefully we'll be signing it with Alberta. So there'll be 2 people left. There will be BC, Quebec, and the territories. And I'm confident we'll come up with a deal for everyone.
This was also a topic at our Western Premiers Conference as well, where we talked about potentially expanding even the New West Partnership across Canada, which is essentially very much a similar discussion as what Premier Ford has been opening up on a bilateral basis. And so there's ways to move this forward. I think the Prime Minister Carney has indicated that they're going to remove all of the federal exceptions with respect to CFTA. Again, all of these are steps forward to a lower regulatory differences between the provinces, and it's all of them together collectively, I think, are a positive for our nation.
Premier Doesn't and Premier Mo, I'm wondering, Daniel Smith has written a letter to the Prime Minister saying failure to have a pipeline on the list of fast-track projects will send an unwelcome signal to Albertans about national unity. Does national unity depend on Daniel Smith getting the pipeline she wants?
Go ahead, Nolan.
Well, I would say again, I would point back to the Western Premiers Conference, and I think we spoke about this, about the priority of not only all Western Premiers, but the 3 Northern Premiers in creating a port-to-port corridor throughout Western Canada, from a northwestern port to Hudson Bay. That corridor would essentially open up not only the Asian market, but advance our access into the European market as well for many products. Hydroelectricity to power industries throughout the Midwest, potentially additional train capacity or rail capacity, which would be huge for Saskatchewan from the west coast, for additional rail capacity into a place like Prince Rupert. But yeah, it has to include oil and gas as well. If we truly are going to become the strongest economy in the G7 nations, if we truly are going to become a global energy superpower, it means we need to open up the opportunity for all of our industries to not only operate at the level they are today, but to operate and expand into the future. And so whether that's the natural resource production and access to those Asian and European markets in Western Canada, or whether it's expanding and defending the manufacturing industry in amongst what is a very unsettled global trade environment and tariff-filled environment today, I agree with Premier Ford that we need to work together to not only defend Canada's interests as a whole, but work together within the nation of Canada to understand where the points of expansion and opportunity are, so that we can achieve those 2 aspirations that the new Prime Minister has.
Do you have
Doug,
BC on
Premier?
side with that, though? Do you have BC
Pardon me?
Do you have BC on side with that? That would seem to be a key piece of
Well, when you think of the opportunities for British Columbia in a port-to-port corridor environment, I think the opportunities far outweigh any of the challenges that they may see from an ideological perspective. And I would use this example, and I was going to use it a little bit tomorrow, but I'll let it out this evening. Right now, we have a real challenge in northern Saskatchewan with forest fires. We have resources in our province from British Columbia, from Quebec, from the Yukon Territories, from the Northwest Territories, from virtually all over Canada, as well as Arizona, Oregon, and Alaska. That support that we provide one another, Ontario as well. Doug's one of the first people to always reach out in these challenges. But that support that is provided without question across our nation and really across the continent of North America when it's needed in a time of disaster is really, I think, the approach that we need to take over the next 24 hours, meeting as the subnational leaders and the Prime Minister of Canada, is supporting one another to ensure that the sum of our economies, our subnational economies make up our national economy, is that they are all firing on all cylinders, so to speak, and they are all having the opportunity to expand. And so is that going to make for each of us to step back and to give a little bit and take a little bit when it comes to that conversation? I think we're all going to have to do that. And I certainly am prepared to, and I think I've indicated that approach over the last while. And that's not an approach, for those from Saskatchewan here, that's not an approach that I've taken over the last decade or so. But certainly am excited about the opportunity that I think the new Prime Minister has in front of him, and I hope he takes up the mantle with respect to it.
Prime Minister Carney has talked about...
Does that mean that Prime Minister Carney has to come out tomorrow and say, I support another pipeline in this country? Is that the success that you want to see out of the meeting?
I'd like to encourage them to say that. We can't rely on the U.S. We have to make sure that we do ship it west obviously with approval from Premier Eby. We have to go north. One of our asks are the Deep James Bay port, and we have to ship it east as well. And that's going to make us stronger. But in saying that, one key thing, and I've been preaching this constantly, get rid of Bill C-69. We could work as hard as we can with all the premiers, and if you have this big barrier in front of us called Bill C-69, it just makes a step, 10 feet backwards. So we need to work together. We need to cooperate together. We have to work collaboratively.
The Prime Minister's talked about a contest for national energy projects. What are your expectations for the rules of this contest, and will you all still be friends when winners and losers are declared?
Yeah, I have really three expectations of what the next 24 hours look like. From a Western Canadian perspective, I would hope that we have a Prime Minister that would step out and say, myself and the federal government support a port-to-port corridor coming from Northwest Port to Hudson Bay, opening up that Asian and that European market for the products that we produce. I would hope that we have a list of projects that need to move forward in the interim, and here's the third piece, a commitment from the Prime Minister and the federal government that we need to change the regulatory environment that we have today to ensure that the projects that are creating wealth in our communities across this nation have the certainty to make those investments happen. The fact that we have to legislate around the current regulatory environment that we have, I think is indicative enough that the regulatory environment that we have today needs to be changed. So three things. I would say for the Prime Minister to support a port-to-port corridor, opening up the Asian and European markets that could then be connected to, I know, some discussion that's happening in central and eastern Canada. Two is to, yes, fast-track a number of projects in this province, nation-building projects, if you will. But three, an admission and a commitment to changing the regulatory environment that we are currently attempting to legislate around, to provide that certainty for investment and certainty for projects to come through that process and into production. That includes the oil and gas industry. So it's Bill C-69, it's clean electricity regulations, it's a layering of regulations that don't need massive change, but need some alterations in order to provide Canada with the opportunity to have the strongest economy in the G7 and to be a global energy superpower. That was what I would hope comes out of the next 24 hours.
Premier Ford, are you encouraged by the fact that the Prime Minister met this morning in Calgary with energy industry leaders? Is he sending a signal
I mean, he's already said that C-69 is not written in stone.
Yeah.
Are you
I'm really encouraged when he goes out there and he reaches out. I think this Prime Minister is really sending out olive branches across the country. He understands the previous Prime Minister totally ignored Alberta, totally ignored Saskatchewan. That's unacceptable. I've said that in our meeting many a times. He has to start showing the love to the people in the West in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And I'm encouraged on our energy side. We need support, not just the small modular reactors, but large-scale nuclear facilities. That's our strength, and that's our strength no matter if it's oil energy or if it's electricity. That's what we need to do to make sure that we're a superpower when it comes to energy in the G7, and I'm confident that we can do it. Like Premier Moe says, let's get rid of all this regulation and red tape that's prohibiting us from moving forward at a rapid speed, because it all depends on the speed right now.
Your province is
Have
at.
you had discussions with Quebec and Premier Legault regarding breaking down trade barriers and pipelines? Have you had those discussions with him?
I had a quick discussion with him. He says he has a proposal for everyone. So I can't wait to see Premier Legault's proposal for everyone that will keep everyone happy. But it's so important to make sure that Quebec is on side. They play such a vital part in our country. I love Quebecers, and I think the world of Francois, he's a really strong-minded business person, and we need to have Quebec on side because it's going to. I apologize.
About the pipeline in Quebec? You want to?
No, the MOU, and MOU.
They have an election.
What about the pipeline?
I'm sorry?
So there were, the pipeline question.
Well, I hope he's going to bring a pipeline through. You know, last time I checked, our great friends, the Quebecers, they drive cars, they need gas.
Is that the proposal?
Well, I'm not too sure what his proposal is, but let's take a look. He hasn't showed me any proposal as of yet, but we need to stand united as a country, and Quebec plays such a vital role in that. It can't be done without Quebec, or can't be done with any other, without all provinces working together.
From just on just.
Internal trade, the Quebec bill does not provide full labor mobility in the construction sector. That's something that we hear about.
Well, let's take a look at it and convince them. I get a lot of complaints from people in Ottawa saying Quebec construction workers, electricians are coming over doing work in Ottawa, but they aren't allowed to go into Quebec. Like, fair is fair, right? You got to go both ways and just open it up. And it just makes us stronger. Protectionism doesn't work anywhere, no matter if it's in our country or around the world. We're one united country. Let's all work together, and everyone will prosper.
That's where this MOU is based in reciprocity.
Yeah.
It goes both ways.
That's right.
Premier Moe, your province is at the front line of the impact of climate change. As we speak, there's those forest fires. Do you see the contradiction in what you're seeing in your province and expanding the oil and gas sector?
No, what I see is over 90% of the fires that have been started in Saskatchewan are caused from human activity. And so if you take away the human activity that is starting those fires, we would have a lot less fires in the province here. When it comes to climate change and Saskatchewan's contribution of the products that we produce to global climate change, my advice and my firm belief, and what I have talked about since long before being in this position, is that we actually need to produce more Saskatchewan agricultural products, Saskatchewan food products, Saskatchewan potash fertilizer, uranium, as we know what it is used for, because it is far lower in emissions per ton of production than any of its competitors around the world. And if I would point you to a Global Institute for Food Security, which is a research institute based out of the University of Saskatchewan. They did a study on our agricultural products. Our agricultural canola and wheat, for example, are produced with about a 65% lower carbon content than the next 7 largest producers globally. When it comes to peas and lentils, that climbs to 92 and 120% lower carbon content per ton of production than the next 6 or 7 global producers around the world. When it comes to potash, we're half. We're half of the next largest producers, which are Russia and Belarus.
What about oil and gas?
oil and gas, we are lower than any of the like products around. In fact, when you go west of here out to North Battleford, Lloydminster, with the thermal projects from companies that have been invested in, like Cenovus and Strathcona, they've reduced their methane emissions since 2015 by about 65%. Name me another industry globally that since 2015 has reduced their methane emissions by 65%. The Saskatchewan energy industry has. Down in our in the Weyburn Mydale oil field, we have a couple of companies down there that are operating on a net zero basis. Name me another oil company globally that is operating on a net zero oil or net zero carbon basis today. And so what I say when it comes to what is a global challenge, not Saskatchewan, Canadian, or even North American, if we want to reduce our carbon footprint, you need to buy more of what we're producing here in Saskatchewan. You need to buy more of what we're producing in Canada. And so it would do the world a great service and global citizens a great service from an environmental and climate change perspective to ensure that we have that corridor port to port. And we're connecting the products produced in Canada to the Asian market and to the European market. And yes, that includes connecting a pipeline to the port so that we can not only increase the price per barrel of oil that we're getting in Western Canada, thereby benefiting all Canadians, but providing a much more sustainable product to the world than maybe some other areas of the world are. And when you look around, those areas might not be that ethical in their production either.
Premiers, I think a lot of times during
First
these.
Minister's meeting here in Saskatchewan.
Pardon me?
Could you speak to
I'll get you next.
hosting the First Minister's meeting here in
Well,
Saskatchewan?
credit to Prime Minister Carney. I think he is aware that there's a feeling of alienation in certain areas of the nation, and Saskatchewan most certainly would be one of those areas. I would say that it's a reactionary feeling due to the layering of policies that we've seen over the last number of years. That the feeling is that it has cost Saskatchewan communities and industries jobs and has restricted the investment or the expansion of the opportunities that we have here whilst we're producing some of the most sustainable products on earth. And so I think there is a much better conversation for us to have. Thus, you've seen a very significant change of approach of myself and the government of Saskatchewan the last number of weeks. Offering that opportunity to a new Prime Minister for us to come together as a nation and to come together to achieve the aspirational goals that he has put forward of becoming the strongest economy in the G7 and a global energy superpower. And that means all sources of energy that we have, uranium, nuclear power, the technology and manufacturing in that space. We have a great opportunity. In fact, I'd say a generational opportunity. I would say the largest single opportunity that I've seen in my lifetime in this nation lying before us. All we need to do is come together, put together a certainty with respect to the regulatory package, and then stand side by side and defend the opportunities that we have in this nation from a trade perspective. Defend them like hell and move forward, one for all in this nation. And so I think we have a great opportunity before us. Credit to Premier Ford for his leadership at the Council of Federation table in this space. And credit to Prime Minister Carney, Prime Minister Carney for providing the offer for us to host a First Minister's meeting the first time in 40 years. 1985 was the last time. And thank you to my friend Premier Ford for his work at the Council of Federation table, which is really going to help us shape and lead the conversation of what our Canadian economy is going to look like by ensuring that all 13 of our subnational economies are strong, growing, vibrant, and going to provide opportunities long after we're pushing up daisies in a field somewhere.
I just wonder to sort of summarize that. A lot of these times with these meetings, public sees politicians go into a room for half a day, come out, we're going to do all these great things, and then they feel like nothing's changed. So what's your message to the public about this one? Is this one different than previous meetings that you've seen?
Well, we're moving at a rapid pace, and you just look at how many MOUs we're signing with all the different provinces. I think that sends a clear message. We have a few more to go, but we're going to get it done. And I've never seen so much urgency when it comes to protecting our economy. I always say that the foundation across the country of our healthcare system, education, infrastructure is one thing, and that's the economy. The economy pays for everything. And if we have a strong economy, we have a strong healthcare system, education, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. And we're going to band together. We've never been attacked by any leader in the world like we have by President Trump. And make no mistake about it, he is out to take every single job off every single Canadian. If he had choice. He doesn't give two hoots about Canada. Well, he's going to have a rude awakening. We're going to fight like we've never fought before. We're going to protect the people, not just of Ontario, but right across our country. We're going to take care of their businesses and the communities and their jobs, and we're united. Doesn't matter what political stripe you come from. We're united as Canadians, and we're resilient.
Premier Mo,
last couple
I
questions.
just wondered about the fire situation, if you have an update. We heard from Premier Ford about some evacuees from Manitoba coming to Ontario. What's the latest in your province and people in other provinces? Can you provide
Yeah.
an update?
Pretty serious. We're very gracious and thankful for the assistance that we've received in the way of firefighters and resources from other provinces and a few other states in North America as well. But it is pretty dire, and it's likely to continue to deteriorate until such time that the weather changes and we get a 2 or 3 day rain throughout our north, and hopefully that rain would hit northern Alberta and northern Manitoba as well, as the fires aren't stopping at the border. We are continuing to evacuate communities. Sturgeon Landing, we added to the list yesterday. Timber Bay this morning. The winds are shifting, and we're doing everything we can with over 20 aircraft, in excess of 1,000 people on the ground, and add to that many locals that are supporting their efforts, and all of the folks that are supporting any of the 8,000 or 9,000 evacuees that we have in the lower part of this province here now. So thanks to everyone that is out there in the front lines. Thanks to everyone that is supporting them in the work they do, or the support of the evacuees. And we just have to hold the line for a few more days until the weather can change for us.
You talked about a national firefighting strategy at the start of this news conference. What do you understand by that? Does it include a national firefighting force?
Well, they have a program set up that if there's a request that comes in, then everyone responds. And this goes right across North America, by the way, and we want to thank our American firefighters that I understand are either up here or coming up here. And as we offered the help for Californians.
Sir, it sounds like you're saying you want more out of this strategy.
Well, I do. What I want is get more planes and water bombers and helicopters. The whole goal is when these fires take off is to try to stop them in their tracks as quickly as possible and put every resource we have. Right now, Ontario has about 11 bombers. We ordered another 6 more water bombers. We have 2 more helicopters that we've ordered. The problem is right now they're backlogged. They produce them in Alberta, God bless them, but it's taken 4 years to produce more water bombers. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure we upscale and get, the helicopters, for example. We were studying it today, that there's some new helicopters coming out by Airbus. Is it a 1250 or something that will hold 1,000 liters compared to smaller ones that might hold 400. But we need to have a whole fleet across the country, because one area is burning, everyone comes like the cavalry. As for Ontario, the briefing today, there's 11 wildfires in Ontario, and by tomorrow it'll be up to 17. That's how quickly this spreads. So it's all hands on deck right across the country, it sounds like.
I just comment on that, and we've had this discussion at the Premier's table and even the First Minister's table previously, is we have agreements in place, not only across Canada, but across North America, on how we can share resources. For example, a couple of years ago, I think the pressure was really in northern British Columbia and into the territories in the Yukon, where we were able to send resources, if my memory serves me correctly, in to help in those initiatives. This year, we're receiving those resources from various places, and the question could be: should we have a national? The process is there, but should we have a national investment into, for argument's sake, 5, 10, or 20 air tankers that could then go into that process to be shared wherever they might be need in whatever particular year? And I think that's a fair conversation to have, and it was at the First Minister's table or the Council of Federation table for sure a number of years ago, and it might be a fair question to have again. And in years when maybe Ontario is having a hot and dry spring and has challenges, they're able to draw on those resources. This year, that would be Saskatchewan. So the process is there, and we do share the resources that we have. And so the question is, should we nationally, as Canadians, add to that resource pool so that all provinces and territories, and even in fairness, into the U.S. in some years, in California, we've seen some challenging years, be able to draw on that as a global partner in that case. But you were in last time.
And the other, well, I'll just follow up on that one. We have a responsibility, and the best stewards of forestry is the forestry sector. We have to make sure we're harvesting our trees, cleaning out the dry brush, because that's what starts us. And from human error, or maybe it's not error, sometimes it's on purpose, who knows, but.
Often error, but not always.
Yeah, but that's what we need to do, is have a strong forestry sector that's clearing the dry brush, having an opportunity to grow more trees, but we need to harvest it. And that's what happened. That was the problem out in California, by the way. That was one of the big problems.
Let's go to the last question here.
Super easy one for Premier Mo. Because this is the first of its kind meeting in 4 years in Saskatchewan, can you just give us a sense of how the day is going to unfold, what we can expect to see, what you hope to accomplish by exhibiting?
Well, lately my day unfolds and starts like it did today, like it does every day, is with a briefing on the fire situation in the north and the shifting winds and what, if any, additional resources we might need on that particular day, of which then I usually reach out to Doug and see what he's got and try to support the requests that come through that compact. But today I think you'll see most, if not all, of the premiers and the Prime Minister arrive, and we'll get together with a reception later today, and we'll start our meetings bright and early tomorrow. I think we'll have a supper this evening and start our meetings bright and early tomorrow, which very much will be focused, I think, on, in some way, shape, or form, those two goals that the Prime Minister has put forward, is to really strengthen the economy and grow that Canadian economy to be the strongest in the G7, of which I think when we start talking about supporting all of the industries that are creating wealth in our provincial and territorial boundaries, the Canadian economy really is the sum of its parts. It's the sum of those 10 provinces and three territories, which is why you'll see Premier Ford and myself talking often about backing each other up when it comes to expanding how we create wealth, because in many ways it's similar, but in many ways it's different between Ontario and Saskatchewan. But it's very connected, through the refinement of uranium, for example, or in Ontario, that's mined in Saskatchewan and shipped around the world at Fort Hope. That's correct. And second to that would be, conversations around how we can ensure that Canada becomes a global energy superpower. And again, that might be uranium, that might be a Wind West project, which I think Premier Houston has been talking about with some offshore wind. It might be connecting through a corridor, a port-to-port corridor, Site C and the hydroelectric facility in northern Manitoba. But for certain, if we are any serious conversation around becoming an energy superpower, it has to be an all of the above approach. And that includes not only nuclear power, uranium mining, hydroelectric power, but it also includes our oil and gas industry, and expanding that most sustainable product, expanding the access of that product around the world. And no better place to do that than that port-to-port corridor, which would include providing a West Coast port for that product to get to Asian markets.
Well, thanks, everyone. Again, I want to thank Premier Mo. This guy is a senior statesman. He's a champion. I've learned a tremendous amount off him and look forward to continue learning. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for
That's
coming.
great. Thank you.